Many are predicting that the worst is yet to come, which is unfortunate, said one person here. Until now, they've enjoyed the reputation of being the nation's icebox.
Watched a burglar in his home this morning by webcam.
As a journalist of over 25 years, stories are what make my world turn.
Reporting live from the Dallas newsroom tonight, Jeff Crilley, Fox 4 News.
But in 2008, I took the jump from my familiar life and started a PR firm from my home.
We're talking about anyone with a camcorder like the one I'm using becomes a television network.
We started slowly growing the company, and we now have over 100 clients, and we've branched into the world of live digital broadcasting. I now own 8 different TV studios and have a huge team, and the stories that I now get to share are sometimes the most important of my life. Life has a funny way of coming around full circle. This is The Jeff Crilley Show.
We're going to talk about the world of ATMs. Most of us take it for granted. You just go, you put in your card, you get some cash, but it is a big industry, and the leaders of the industry are in the studio right now. We're going to start with Nancy Daniels. She is the COO of Hyosung Americas, and Lonnie Talbert, he is the CEO of ATMIA, which is the global leader in ATM conferences. Lonnie, you just wrapped up the conference. We'll start with you. It was one of the most successful conferences you've ever held.
Yes, sir. We, over the last number of years, we continue to take what our members are looking for and trying to really say, where are we headed, right? It's easy to always look over your shoulder and say where you've been, but you really got to say, where are we going to go? And so when we do that, we try to focus on that kind of program. So this year, the Super ATM was the conference program and the conference moniker. And that really, it sounds sort of cliche, Super ATM, but really what it was talking about is, where is that ATM evolving to? And it's evolving into a space that is more than just a cash dispenser, which most people know it as. It's much bigger than that, which I'm sure Nancy can fill you in on a lot of those details that are coming.
Yeah, add to that, if you will, Nancy.
So, Jeff, first, it's great to be back with you again. Thank you so much. As I sort of mentioned before, there have been a significant number of branch closures since, bank branch closures since COVID. About 20,000 bank branch closures across the United States. And that's created much the same as there are food deserts, cash deserts in the United States. And the ATM has really become sort of a central focal point, whether it's in a C-store, a bodega, or whatever. And to Lonnie's point, in the past, these have been typically devices that just simply spit out $20 bills, $20 bill vending machines. They're now evolving into much more sophisticated devices where people can really do a complete set of banking transactions, whether it's deposits, checks, whatever. So this is really becoming their bank branch, which is what Lonnie's referring to as the Super ATM.
Yes. Well, we have been hearing for years that we're going to go to a cashless society. That's not happened, has it, Lonnie? What do you think, what makes cash king?
Well, cash is the oldest form of currency, right? I mean, if you go back to the days of bartering, okay, maybe you could say that was a type of currency, or someone would trade eggs for milk from a cow. But when you think of currency and hard currency, it's been around the longest, and it's been the most successful, if you will, the most secure. I give you something, you give me something, and we can carry on that transaction. And people, I think, appreciate that. And so anytime I hear something like an extreme of it's going away, we're going to be a cashless society, I automatically take pause and say, well, is that really what you think is going to happen or what you want to happen? And what we're finding out is more and more people are saying that's not the case. We want to have payment choice. We want to have the ability to choose what we pay, how we pay, when we pay, not necessarily you telling me that this is the only form of payment you're going to accept.
And you always have to be innovating and seeing trends and staying ahead of them. Nancy, I think you told me before the show that a typical ATM gets replaced every 8 years.
Correct.
So with Hyosung, you are always kind of looking at where is the industry going? How can we best serve our clients?
Correct. And because of, this is a fairly sophisticated technological device, we are actually planning on really the next generation of ATMs that will be introduced in sort of the 2030s timeframe. But to your point, because of technology changes, most ATMs, to make sure they're a secure form that people can feel comfortable with, is they put their card in, they know they're not going to have issues, get hacked, whatever. Those have to be updated fairly frequently, and there's a cycle about every 8 years. Pretty much all ATMs ATMs have to be replaced. And we're right now at the place, at the sort of the point where people are really beginning to do fairly massive replacements of those ATMs. And again, going back to the super ATM theme that Lonnie talked about, as people look to replace those devices, they're looking at adding more sophisticated devices that provide, better capabilities for, basically the consumers that use them.
And Nancy, you spoke this morning, standing room only crowd. I was sitting in the back, and there were people lined up against the wall. Why don't you give us just a highlight from this morning's talk?
So this morning's talk was really about protecting the financial networks. Without going into a lot of detail, cybersecurity and making sure that people's information is protected, people's accounts are protected, and so forth. Basically the prevalence of new, more sophisticated AI tools, deep fakes, things like that. As an industry, we have an obligation as whether it's a financial institution or a provider of equipment, to ensure that people's personal information, their account information is protected. And the subject of that was really basically how to make sure that people are protected.
And I love that your session was so well attended. Lonnie, do you think it was well attended because your attendees really want to be responsible to their customers and stakeholders, and in order to do that, you've got to protect the information?
Well, first of all, Nancy hit on a topic that is critical to the success of not only the ATM environment, but the self-service technology environment, right? As an individual, as any of us, whenever we're going to take on a financial transaction, we want to feel comfortable and safe. And that's what scares us the most, is if I go and use my ATM card, or I use my credit card, or I do these things, or I use my phone, what's going to happen? Is it going to end up somewhere else that I don't want it to be? So I think that the topic is timely. I think Nancy speaking about it because she comes from that environment where security is critical, and I think that interests people. And so we found that out today because, the topics out there you think are okay, you find out, hey, there are a lot of people that are on the same track, if you will, around wanting to make sure things are safe and secure.
And Nancy, you led this morning with a famous quote from a famous bank robber. What was the quote again?
So there was a famous bank robber from the 1920s, from the time of Bonnie and Clyde and John Dillinger. And he was eventually captured. An FBI agent asked him, Willie, why do you rob banks? And his response was, well, that's where the money is. Mm-hmm. And in our modern world, it's really not, it's not a bank branch. It's really, why do people rob ATMs? That's because that's where the money is.
Yeah. And that's why you always have to stay one step ahead of the bank.
Exactly.
Right. Let's look forward to new conferences. You told me, Lonnie, you're going to be back here in Dallas again soon. What are some themes that you see being relevant to your constituents in the coming years?
Yeah, next year we'll go back to Vegas and Caesars, and I think the whole use of the ATM in terms of, now that we've talked about the super ATM, right? So a lot of times what we'll do is we'll throw a topic out and it'll become very popular, right? There'll be buzz, but the actual execution of that kind of technology, I think we're going to see over the next, 1, 2, 3, 5 year time horizon. And it's because the consumer is demanding that, right? Nancy talked about, the phone is that app-based kind of situation that we're all comfortable with, right? That's what the consumer wants. So I think we're going to see more and more of that start to take shape because, again, habits are driven by consumers. Change is driven by consumers because they're a very loud audience. And that's how businesses make money. Consumers commerce.
We're almost out of time, so I'm going to give you both a chance to have final thoughts. We'll begin with you, Nancy.
So going back to where you began in terms of cash going away, one of the things I'd like to mention is that in the United States, there's a huge cash economy. Mm-hmm. Roughly $1.9 trillion is what the so-called underground economy. And this is not fentanyl and automatic weapons. This is a server, a nail technician, a gardener. And that is a cash-based economy. And it's like a $1.9 trillion. It's a huge portion of the GDP of the United States. So cash in itself is growing at 4.5% per year in terms of the number of notes in circulation. Cash is not going away anytime soon. Mm-hmm. The other aspect is that we're seeing, particularly with newer generations, because of concern about privacy, and Lonnie mentioned sort of payment choice, people may want to have, the anonymity that a cash transaction provides. So this is why what we do is so very important.
Mm. Lonnie, we'll give you the final word.
Oh, thank you, Jeff. And it's an honor to be sitting here with Nancy and you to talk about this. I think the fact that we're talking about these kind of issues on a continual basis is very important, right? We could put our heads in the sand and think like, oh, things are just going to go away. That doesn't happen. You have to have conversation. You have to have dialogue. I talked about this morning about you have to evolve, and you can't just think it's going to go away if you don't. So you talk about it, you actually put it out there, you manifest it, and guess what? Things change, things happen, consumers are happy.
Wow. Great way to end this show. Thank you both for coming on, and that's it for now. We'll see you next time.